Good evening, everyone. Oh, now at Susla last night, they surely outdid you. I know it's a smaller crowd, I recognize that, but good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right, there we go. I'm Larry Clark. I will be the moderator this evening for this community meeting. Welcome to the second of our 4 community meetings of the City of Shreveport Capital Improvements Committee. We're here to hear from you, the community. As I start, I don't believe, and Mr. Dark has looked around with me, I don't believe we have any city council members here tonight. We had one member, Ms. Taylor was there for Council District A last night at Susla. I do want to recognize that Mayor Tom Arsenault is here. He says he's here as an observer, not his capacity as mayor to be involved in the discussion tonight. But I assure you he was also here at Susla last night and being here. Each council person plays 2 individuals on this committee. The committee was created by Mayor Arsenault, and he put 6 persons on the committee. I'm one of those 6. And we have here tonight a number of the members of the Citizens Committee. Now, the stage it's a challenge, and I'll just confess for a moment of how to set this room up. And having set it up the way I have, I'm now having second thoughts of it. But my day job up until June 30th was being chancellor of LSUS. And I was a number of times had assemblies of the faculty and or the students. And I'd have my leadership team up on stage, and I would be up there with the podium, and we would call it a town meeting. And ultimately, the students, in their social media ways, thought that was terrible, that we were up high and they were down low where they were important. And so we switched it around so that my leadership team was here and the students could come up and speak to other students that way. The challenge is that you won't be seeing the members of the committee who are here, but when you come up to speak, in the first and second rows going across here are members of the committee. And so we just looked just to see if there were chairs up there just to flip it, and there are no chairs back behind there. We've done very well of keeping tidiness in the back there. The fire marshal wanted. And so there are no chairs back there to have flipped it around after seeing it again tonight. So I will tell you that in advance, more than you wanted to know, and that didn't, by stalling, have any other people come in. So here we go. So why don't we start, Jim West, if you'll start by introducing yourself, and we'll go across. And for your committee members, if you were appointed by a city council member, your district, please, so that people will know district. And this is District D that we're in, but this is not a District D only. We're not doing 7 districts. We just happen to be in District D tonight as we were in A last night. Yes, please, if you will stand back to the audience, please.
My name is Jimbo West. I'm retired, a lifelong resident of Shreveport for the most part, and the founder of Corby's Park Foundation. District C, excuse me.
I'm Steve Martin. I'm with Martin Specialty Coatings. I'm also semi-retired, but I'm with District E. I'm a native of Shreveport.
Cedric Choice, retired, appointed by the mayor.
Christopher Cole, architect, District B.
Jacqueline Savage, a native of Shreveport, representing District A.
I'm a native. I'm representing District B.
Grant Knuckles, glad to be with y'all, District D.
Terry Moore, appointed by the mayor, glad to be here.
Good evening, everyone. R.J. Johnson, representing District G.
Well, that's a professor's voice right there. You could command this room.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Repeat, District E.
Good evening, everyone. Rudolph Glass, I represent District A.
Good evening, everyone. Larry Levinsky, member of Lars and not retired.
Hey, I'm Connor Peterson, member at large. Glad to be here.
Great. Thank you so much. So these are the committee members that I serve with. Mayor Arsenault, as I told you, created the Capital Improvements Committee. However, over 2/3 of the committee members were appointed by city council members, as you just heard by the districts that are represented here this evening. I want to thank and applaud members of the Shreveport City Council for the quality and diversity of the people put forward for the Capital Improvements Committee. Along with Mayor Arsenault's people, the committee is an exceptionally talented, dedicated group of citizens. Mayor Arsenault has strongly communicated to the committee of the importance of the City Council in relation to our work. We understand the City Council has the final word on whether to call a bond election and the composition of any bond package. We're committed to bringing forward a strong, focused community plan for a bonds improvement election this coming spring. However, it's going to be those of you here in the audience, those of you as citizens as we are citizens, who have the final vote. However it happens to come through, the City Council with the mayor, ultimately it's the people, the citizens, the voting citizens of Shreveport. And so it's very important for us to hear what it is that you have for us. We're going to ask that, we're going to come back and talk about that in a moment, but I want to introduce to you Mr. Tom Dark, the Chief Administrative Officer of the City of Shreveport. Mr. Dark had a long previous tenure for the city as the city's Chief Administrative Officer. Mayor Arsenault initially asked Mr. Dark to assume an interim role with his new administration, but soon thereafter requested that Mr. Dark return full-time. Mr. Dark will recognize different city people here during the meeting that may be helpful, and he's going to give an overview from the point of view of the city. Mr. Dark.
Before I start, I want to do something that you didn't see. Councilman Jim Talaferro sneaked in the back, so
Okay.
and he represents the District C area.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
You
y'all.
did hear me say the importance of the city council then.
Yeah,
in
did
this
did
whole
hear that part.
process. No, city council member was here.
I just want to thank those of you who are here to give input. The sort of short version is that a bond issue is a mortgage the city takes out. Just like in a homeowner situation, there are things that are too big to just simply write a check for. So what we do when we're trying to make big improvements is we try to do bond issues, and usually they're for 30 years, sometimes a little less, but usually 30 years. And that gives you the opportunity to invest in the community in the same way that you'd invest in a house if you were doing that. When a bond issue goes to the, when we're trying to do one that's paid back with property taxes, as this one will be, you have to go to the voters for approval first. And so we are trying very hard to do a process that lets voters be heard, that lets people give us the best possible input we can get, because it really does matter. The last two tries that the city's had in doing bond elections in 2019, 2021, there were 8 propositions between them, and only one of those passed. And we'd like to do better than that this time, because there really are some serious needs. We passed out something. If you didn't get one, there's one on the table on the way out, of kind of the list of things that department heads have presented to the committee over the last 4 or 5 weeks. We are going to add to that anything that comes from the public comments and anything else that we can come up with. We deliberately didn't put a lot of specific streets on there because we knew there would be some of that suggested, and in fact last night there was. But it really is your turn. The one thing I would point out is there's a difference between what maintenance is and what you actually buy with a bond issue. If you got a pothole in front of your street, in front of your house, that's maintenance. If your ditch in front of your house is not clean the way it should be, that's maintenance. And there are folks here, people over there sitting in that same row with the mayor from SPAR and from Public Works, City Engineer's Office, from Water and Sewer, and Fire, I think. And they can answer any of those questions. Don't let them get out of here if you have that kind of maintenance question. But if you want a newly paved street, not just asphalt over it, but actually fixed, if the ditch behind your neighborhood doesn't work, if you want something that isn't here now, something to be built, those are things that are bond issue projects. So those are the kind of things we want to hear from you. Just understand that the hardest thing this committee is going to have to do is that there are always going to be more projects than there is money. They're going to do, and they've already started, I think, doing a good job of trying to assess what's important. But a great deal of that is simply listening to you and seeing what you think. We don't have a monopoly on brains here. The committee doesn't. We want to hear from you. We're doing 2 more of these next week. And when we get through, sometime between then and Thanksgiving, the committee's going to have taken a tour of some of the places that we've talked about. They're going to be in a position to start setting priorities, and hopefully sometime just right after Thanksgiving, we'll be able to present something to the council, because we're trying to get on the ballot for an election at the end of April. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dark. So now you've heard that what we're going to do is solicit your input, and we're going to add it to the list. Mr. Dark spoke about the list with the projects. Again, the list is outside the door. If you haven't gotten it, you can get it now. You can get it after the meeting. It totals nearly $350 million, and that's probably not going to be the bond issue. That's a very, very significant number. So we are continuing to get input. What that list is a continuing list of things that the committee will consider. As Mr. Dark said, we'll consider further things this evening that we hear and at the other 2 meetings to happen. When you come forward to speak, because we're now going to turn it over for you and the community to come forward, if you provide your name when you come up, and you'll come up to this podium right here to address the audience and to my fellow committee members. We request that you focus your comments on things for the bond package. Mr. Dark explained, but if it is something that you want to talk about and that you have, and it's not exactly that, as long as it's dealing with something towards what we're talking about for a bond issue, I'm going to allow you to go ahead. But again, please keep it, it's going to be things of public safety, parks, drainage, sewer, those kinds of project things would be in the bond issue. And we're going to limit you to 3 minutes. Now, as at Southern University last night, there were a couple exceptions because of people who came forward that had some information that they had that one person had been before the committee before. So we're going to ask you, and I'm going to be off to the side over here as a time monitor. And so we're going to begin now, and so I would request that the first person who would like to come forward and talk to us, please come forward, and you can come to this podium and where you would like to hear from you. First person from the community that would like to come forward. The second person from the community. Thank you, sir. Come on forward. The podium's yours.
Thank you, Dr. Clark, and Mayor, department heads, members of the committee. My name's Bill Robertson. I live in Broadmoor at 214 Leo, and I want to congratulate the mayor for thinking about the future. That's what we need to do in our city. I've got a couple of questions about some of the wish list from SPAR, and I also have a couple of suggestions for the committee. First, the suggestions. I think the streets and drainage folks need to look hard at reopening Lake Street. I think it'll take about $2 million because it's a railroad-related issue, but the road's been closed since 2014. It was originally to be closed just for 2 years to allow the safety devices to be installed on Lake Street, but that obviously came and went, and it didn't happen. It would be helpful to Scyport, it would be helpful to all of downtown, and it would be helpful to the folks who use Fan Parkway for commuting. So please seriously consider that. I also want to suggest, and I know this is contrary to the mayor's vision, but I want to suggest that a rebuilding of Fairgrounds Field be part of the consideration. That's a great facility. It was built in 1986. I think it's got plenty of years left to it, and it's a fraction of the cost of building a new baseball stadium at the fairgrounds. So there are some people that are willing to help the city do that and spread the burden. I think that should seriously be considered. I'm concerned about Corby's and AC Steer Parks. I understand that the folks at SPAR want to replace the pool at Corby's. That sounds like a good idea to me, except if you move it to another park. I think it needs to stay put. If you're going to rebuild it, leave it in place. Same with the recreational facility there. If you want to make some improvements at Steer, it's a limited green space and it's a very well-used green space. So please don't take up any more of the grass there. If you need to do something there, maybe you could use an existing building footprint. I don't know what a therapeutic recreation center entails, but that's been suggested for SPAR. Perhaps some elaboration on that could be made. And finally, I know the rugby guys really use Steer a lot. I don't know if they've been consulted about the idea of turf, whether that's artificial or not. That doesn't sound real good to me, so please give that some serious thought. That pretty much wraps it up for me. I know y'all got plenty to do here, so I'm going to sit down. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for coming forward. Will the next person who'd like to speak to the committee please come forward? Next, come on down. Sure, come on down. Thank you for doing so. The podium's yours, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Chris Chandler. I'm in Southeast Shreveport, just south here of the university. I get to travel the state these days. I'm retired. This is my hometown. This kind of forum is an awkward place to address things that you'd like to see improve in your city, but let me tell you the difficulty that I've experienced in expressing ideas over the years. It has nothing to do with the current administration, but in general, the citizens are not participating in Shreveport. Obvious tonight. We don't participate because probably my experience is shared by many others, which is when you try to engage with council or with mayor's offices, you don't get your voice heard. And this happens over many years. If you're not a financial contributor, or if you're not a big business person at the chamber or on the committee of 100, your voice is not valued and your ideas are not valued. And this is an overall complaint, but I've talked with SPAR for years. I've talked with every administration since I've been in business and worked with schools and done different things in this community. And the problem of Shreveport is that we're not communicating with our citizens. And you guys can help change that, because we have technology today that allows you to really communicate with every citizen. We should have an app on the website for the city of Shreveport that allows citizens to inform themselves and then register things that they would like to vote on to see on the wish list for SPAR, for streets, for police, and every other thing that we're concerned about. Technology would enable the citizens to play the game of being a citizen, and you guys can help make that happen. I hope you'll think about technology to engage the citizens that are obviously not interested in this community's well-being. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dart, do you want to mention that the web page is not the same thing as Mr. Chandler is suggesting, but that there is a web page the city has?
It would be really helpful for those of you in the media to get this news out. We've been trying as well. But on the www.shreveportla.gov, there actually is a link to a form that comes straight to me that I can share with them, where you have the opportunity to tell us what you'd like to see put in a bond issue, suggestions for a project. And so anybody who, if you think of something after you leave here, or if you know somebody who wishes they'd gotten their input in, that's the easiest way to get it done.
And again,
It's
Mr. Chandler, I recognize that's not what you were saying,
shreveportla.gov.
that there is another.
Just the regular city website, shreveportla.gov. There is a link pretty prominent right now where it will tell you that you can just pop that.
If you go to Google and put City of Shreveport, the
It'll
web
get you
page
there.
comes up, hit city web page, and you're right there, and it'll do it for you. So it's there. Thank you. The next person to come forward, please, to speak to us. Thank you, sir, for coming forward.
They're already leaving.
3 minutes, that's it?
3 minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Jason Brown, I have property on Texas Avenue. I didn't intend to speak here, but I was looking at the list of proposed improvements, and I couldn't help but think about the last Independence Bowl. And it was something that was kind of shocking for me, is that after BYU came and played here, I read one of the writers who came to Shreveport, and he went home and wrote about what he thought about our city. Go read the article. It's not good. It shows a city that's dilapidated and broke down and bereft of hope. Interestingly enough, he wrote his route in his article about how he traveled through Shreveport and what a dump we look like. And I thought about that. You have these corridors that people come in and they come downtown. And there are only really about 3 ways to get into downtown. And if you drive those ways, it looks like something from a third world. And I have to admit, I'm on that Texas Avenue, and I have property there, and I deal with it as well. But it's a neglected area of town when you drive in on Highway 80 or on North Market or on the Viaduct. It just looks terrible. And so when I'm looking at this wish list about improvements that could be made to the streets, what I don't see is maybe taking a cue from that reporter from Utah and trying to make at least, when you're driving into our downtown area, that it's actually something that looks nice. The streets, the sidewalks are repaired, the street lights work. The buildings are not dilapidated and falling down. And I think that's that neglect that people see, and you can't miss it. So it's one thing I thought about. I do want to thank Bill. Thank you so much for bringing up the rugby team at AC Steer. The rugby team uses the fields out there all year round. And it is a well-used place. There's a lot of activity out there, but it's possible turf may not be that bad. I know some teams are doing it, but we'd welcome any discussions about what to do with AC Steer. We understand that any progress is good, and I understand that there may be displacement, but we can certainly talk with the city about that, and I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for coming forward. Next speaker, please. Good evening to you. Come forward, please. Good evening.
Just give my name.
Yes, please.
My name is Benita Crawford. I live in Broadmoor, and I was on the committee a couple of years ago, and so I have some, y'all may have said it, I was running a little late, but on the first, under public safety,
yes,
there were some new fire stations that were supposed to be built, and some that were supposed to be built that didn't make the list. And so I would like to know specifically about those stations, renovations. Are they going to, which ones they would be?
Sure.
Oh, it says new fire station. Duh, my thumb must have been in the way. But still, I would like to know which.
Mr. Dark will come up here in a moment as you're,
okay,
if you want. Mr. Dark, why don't you?
And
Well,
Let's go ahead and do it now.
and then the other thing is, I live across the street from AC Steer Park. That park is used virtually, except when it rains, 365 days. If it didn't rain, it would be used that way all the time by the rugby kids, rugby men, soccer kids, baseball kids, just playing in the green grass. We've seen kids just laying around enjoying the day. So I would like for you to reconsider putting anything else there, and like for you to read the deed, because I don't think the deed for the school says that anything new can be built there. The Broadmoor Library, the old one, was built, but it was not. I was on the school board for 10 years, and that library was built and not taken care of by the deed. It was built illegally, if you want. I don't want to use that word, but right now I can't think of another word. So I want you to consider carefully the park at AC Steer, because that is a green space that is used and valued.
Thank you for that. Mr. Dark, if you want to just wait here, ma'am, while he answers, you can make sure he gives you the answer you want. Mr. Dark, if you can speak to the fire stations?
Okay, cool. I'll talk as loud as I need to. What I know is that the fire department has traditionally done some renovations out of the bond money, but they have 3 requests to replace existing stations in what they have given the committee. The stations that they would like to replace are the one on 70th Street, close to the Sheraton, because it's kind of landlocked. They think they can expand on that site. There is one on Hollywood, if you leave the airport going out and turn left instead of going straight to the interstate, that desperately needs to be replaced. And then the one on Uri at Albany, which is quite landlocked. They're trying to figure out what to do there, as whether it can be done in that same general place, which is what they'd like to do. Those are the 3 that they would like to build new stations in place of, but build them in the same, if not on the same footprint, certainly in the same general area. Does that answer what you needed, or? Yes. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Mr. Dark? Yes. Can you talk a minute about AC Steer? What's involved there in terms of what SPAR is considering as a possibility?
At the risk of being the SPAR director, Shelley, I'll try.
And if you want Shelley to come down, because she surely...
If you need to
But
come down,
RJ was suggesting that perhaps
the sort of bottom line is that SPAR has a rec center next to the Corby's golf course that was probably built right after World War II and has scarcely been touched since. My daddy, who would be about 97 now, played young adult basketball there. So I know it's been there at least since the early 50s. And there's a pool there as well. The site is a little bit landlocked, but the center is just not worth saving. So what SPAR wants to do, they run a therapeutic recreation, and somebody asked what that was. That's a recreation program for folks with special needs. And it's a very successful program that SPAR runs that they're quite proud of. And they're running it right now out of the Princess Park Gym, which is another one that is quite old. I don't know how old, but probably just barely post-World War II. And either they're going to have to do some tremendous amount of renovation there to bring it up to code so they can use it, or what they'd really like to do, or what they propose to do, is to build a new center at AC Steer, which is primarily for the therapeutic program. We are still working on trying to figure out how the footprint works. We think we can do it and preserve a good bit of green space. I know that SPAR and the Rugby folks are supposed to be meeting in the next day or two to visit with, kind of how that might work. But I do know that we've heard a number of people say, this place gets used a lot, do not take our green space away. So a lot of this is dependent on how they can make the site work, and that's still to be, I think, shown to the committee and determined later.
Thank you. And so the committee has taken no position in regard to AC Steer and what to do with that, nor have we taken a position on anything else that's on that list of nearly $350 million in possible projects. And so that's what the committee will be doing. The committee has asked for further information and vetting, and that's what Mr. Dark is saying is occurring. And so I want everyone in the community to understand that this is part of the input process. So the fact that it's on the pages that you've been provided in terms of input, that's a discussion point for the city leadership, for the directors and managers, and for us for what we'll be doing. So we're continuing to ask questions as a committee. Now, the next person to come forward, please. Someone else to come forward? Let me ask, okay, thank you, sir. You're coming forward? Not coming forward. Let me ask if there's anyone you heard asking a question. What we were here for was to get input, but while we're waiting perhaps for someone to decide to come forward, does anyone want to come down with any type of question of us that you want to ask of us of the process of what we're doing?
Okay. I can say it from right here, the question.
But you're not going to be captured here.
I'm going to come back to just to ask the general question.
Okay.
So I know the department heads probably created the list. I'm assuming each department head gave the new mayor a list of wish list. Is that correct, or has
So
the
let me
community
explain
already
what-
provided that
what
list
happened.
some other
So
way?
we've had meetings that have, thank you, Mr. Chandler. We have had meetings that have been focused on particular areas, such as public safety, such as SPAR, such as street and drainage. And so, to help us, we've asked the CAO, Mr. Dark, and the city leaders in those different areas to put forward what they think and believe are the highest priorities that they've identified coming into these town meetings that we're having now, so that it gives us a basis to have something there also to share with the community, so you can see the list of things that the city is looking at and considering. And so that's why the city's being very open with you to give you that list that comes up to about $350 million. So you can see, you might say, well, why that, why this, why that, what about this? This is the what about this opportunity. This is very important. It's one of the things when I met with Mr. Dark and Mayor Arsenault, Mayor Arsenault was very, very clear about the fact that what the city will provide will be a starting point for discussion. And we're not going to give you just simply a very much, this is the list, very tight, and say this is the list, and all we're going to do as a committee is just rubber stamp it. That's not what he wanted us to be doing. And so it is for us to be looking at this, it's for the community to look at it, and for you to be able in the community to say, what about this? What about that? And we're not exactly sure how we'll get the list down. Last night it was asked, will we be doing a field trip? And the answer is yes. We agreed at the last meeting that we're going to take a Saturday, probably a Saturday morning, and there will be a bus, and the city council member from District A said she had a list of things that she would give us that we ought to go see. And we will try to build that into what we do. But we're going to go out to all 7 districts. And we can't see everything in a morning. Absolutely we cannot. But through these town meetings and through the input we've had, and for streets, for example, because streets were discussed a lot last night at Susla, the city does have a full grid of streets, and they're graded in terms of what those are. And they'd been shared out. And so a couple of the speakers came and spoke based on the grid of streets. And so those are things that we're going to look to see, what are those areas and what streets in particular do we all look at. We can't see everything, and we can't say we're going to see everything because we're not. We don't have enough time for that. I wish we did. But I may be retired, but most of these people are not. And it's just not possible for us to commit that level. But we're going to be strategic in what we do. And we're going to be out there, we're going to go out to see. And so and from that, we'll then begin with the input from the webpage that Mr. Dark spoke of, with the input coming in. That's how we'll begin to work to shape it. And what we recommend to the city council will be up to them then to make a decision of what to do with that and how they will shape it in terms of what they would be providing the mayor and what ultimately you, the citizens, vote on. So I hope that helps, Mr. Chandler, in terms of giving you an idea of what we're doing. Thank you. Now, anyone else to come forward this evening? Let me ask for my colleague committee members. Anyone from the committee that would like to come forward? There were a number of you who were at Suswell last night. We have split it out so that we know that I went back to being the college professor and gave assignments of who should be at what night. Are there 4 nights to make sure we had strong representation here at each of these meetings? But I've got to tell you, I got star pupils here because people that are not on this list on the committee are here as well because they are concerned about hearing the input from the community. And so I commend the committee for that you're here. But some of you were here last night, now you've heard this, you've had 2. Any perspectives anyone wants to share? Because I'm getting ready, so you understand where I'm going, I'm getting ready to call this a meeting because I don't hear any more people coming forward. I don't have any more asking with a question in the process. But before I do, I want to give the opportunity to this committee, if anyone from the committee wants to use the podium to say something to this. I'm not seeing or hearing that as well. I'll give you a 2-minute warning. In 2 minutes, this meeting comes to an end, unless I see or hear someone wishing to come forward at this point. But again, I don't want to elongate the meeting. But yes, ma'am. Come forward. Thank you for coming forward.
You're welcome to call the meeting. So hi, everyone. My
Hi.
name's, hi, I'm Regina Brown. And so I grew up here, and I've been gone for a long time. I came back totally disappointed. I love my city. So I looked at the street list, 3132. So us folks that are coming from west to the city, we
Yes.
often take 3132. Yeah, it's LA 3132. It's horrible. I mean, totally. I mean, the speed limit is 60, right? And so it is in disrepair. And people can have accidents because they're driving at a very high speed and the street is in disrepair. And also, I had to put my car in the shop because of the disrepair of that street.
Sorry to hear that.
And the bill was pretty extensive. So, again, just to get people into our beautiful city that we all love, we can do better, and I hope you add that to the list.
Thank you. I need to have Mr. Dart come forward and explain what happens with city streets versus state routes.
Unfortunately, Ms. Bryant, the 3132 is a state highway, and we have people here who can help communicate that request to the local Department of Transportation and Development office, because we agree with you. It's not good, but it is not a city street to maintain. The only thing we do on roads like that is that we mow them, we pick up litter, and the street lights are ours. But the pavement itself, unfortunately, is the state's.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, ma'am.
Whoever can translate that to where it needs to go, please do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I think that's one of the importance of this kind of a town meeting, is to share information and how things can get addressed, and for us to hear from you and agree, and for the city leaders, although they don't have the ability, it's not under their budgets to fix, that they can help, hopefully, to be champions to try to get that addressed as you suggest. All right. Anyone else to come forward? Anyone else? Then thank you very much for coming to LSU Shreveport tonight. Thank you to the university for providing a facility. Thank you for my fellow committee members for showing up here and your interest. But most of all, thank you to those of you who came out here to join us this evening to give your input. We have recorded what you have said. We understand more than we did before we came in here about some of the issues facing the city of Shreveport. We're thankful that you chose to come out here. We urge that you encourage others to come forward. There are 2 more evenings. We'll be at Huntington High School next Tuesday night in the auditorium there. We'll be at Valencia Park a week from tonight. We encourage people to come. We encourage you to suggest others to come here and provide input. We are here to receive what it is that you have to offer to us. And we thank you for having come here this evening. Thank you very much.